Republican Senator Rob Portman of Ohio. Senator, thanks for coming in.
You bet. Thanks for having me on.
Do you think President Trump should sit down for an interview with Robert Mueller's team?
That's up to him and his lawyers. You know, I do think we ought to let the Mueller investigation go forward and let the facts go where they might, follow the facts. I also think that the Mueller investigation ought to wrap up. I mean, I think it has been a long time. And I think the American people deserve to know, what the Russians did in our election in 2016, and that will inform us for 2018, which is one reason I'd hoped that this could be wrapped up by now. We have to remember, that's really what this investigation is about. It's about the Russians, their meddling, and why they did it, how they did it, and how to avoid it from happening in the future.
With the understanding that Attorney General Jeff Sessions can't end the investigation because he recused himself, when you see the statement from the president when he says Attorney General Jeff Sessions should stop this investigation right now, is that an opinion or is that a direction?
I don't know. He did use the word should, and it wasn't a surprise to me. I don't know if that's the first time he said it. It seems like he said it before. He also knows that his Attorney General is recused.
The kind of the point people are making.
Yeah, it wasn't surprising.
I want to talk to you about trade. It's a very big deal for your state. It's a very big deal for you. The president is considering raising the stakes in the trade war with China even further. And here's what he said this week about that during a rally. Listen.
China had others, remember this, have targeted our farmers. Not good, not nice. And you know what our farmers are saying? It's okay. We can take it. These are incredible people. We can take it.
He's essentially saying that farmers, don't think it's a big deal, that farmers say they can take it. That's not what I'm hearing from farmers that we've interviewed. Do you agree with him?
Well, I think the ag community is split. I'll be at the annual ag breakfast tomorrow morning at the Ohio State Fair, and I'll hear from a lot of farmers. And I think, Kate, based on what I've heard in the last several weeks, I go home every weekend and spend a lot of time talking to folks who are in the ag sector. I think it'll split. There are a lot of people who understand, as all of us do, that China is not playing by the rules, that they have cheated, they continue to, and we need to hold them to account. On the other hand, we need to be careful how we do it, because if we're doing it in a way that invites retaliation against our farmers and our service providers and our workers in manufacturing in Ohio, it does have a negative impact.
And isn't that what's happening?
Well, my concern, which I've expressed as recently as last night in the Senate floor, is that we have so many balls on the air right now in terms of trade. I get it on China. I agree with the president. I commend him for going after China on their unfair trade practices. But we need to bring some of this to a close because we aren't having, as I understand it, serious negotiations at this point. With China, for example, I honestly don't think the Chinese government knows what our objectives are, because we've said two things. One, we have said we would like to increase exports from the United States to affect the trade balance. But second, we want to go after some of their structural issues that they have, for instance, not allowing U.S. companies to have a majority ownership in many sectors in China, or the way they take our intellectual property to leapfrog us on technology. Yeah. So I think we need to do both with China, but be very clear with them what our objectives are, what our goals are, and then try to lower the temperature a little bit so that we are not impacting our farmers as much. In Ohio,
so then I take that,
China's our big market for soybeans.
Yeah,
so it's a big deal for
it's a huge market for Ohio.
Prices.
I mean, should I take that you think raising the tariffs on China even further is a bad idea?
Well, let's talk first. Let's see where we are. I mean, we are talking about going up to 25% from 10% on some of these tariffs, and China is responding in kind, of course. The big issue I have focused on, frankly, is to say, okay, China is one issue, and we do need to hold them to account. And again, I commend the administration for doing that. We need to change the dynamic there. But with regard to the rest of the world, we're doing something under what's called 232, which is a national security waiver to the trade laws that I've really focused on more, which is to say, and our legislation yesterday we introduced tightens that up so that we're not taking on these other countries without any justification, because that's a real problem, because then they do the same to us. So we're doing it on steel and aluminum. They're doing it on agriculture products, on manufactured products, on services, and that begins a escalation of tariffs that could lead to a trade war without any justification. In other words, no justification on unfair trade, no rationale with regard to a domestic industry being injured. Under this national security waiver, you can just raise tariffs without a reason other than national security. Well, I think it's being misused, and other countries are responding just as you would expect, in kind, by raising tariffs on us. So we need to get back to talking, negotiating, working out these trade agreements. My hope is we can do that with regard to Mexico and Canada in particular, because they're huge trading partners, our two biggest trading partners in Ohio. And the 232 tariffs that I talked about a minute ago are causing us, in my view, to have even a more difficult time, not just with the tariffs being raised on our products and our consumers being hit by higher prices, but also not being able to get to an agreement on NAFTA to keep this North American Free Trade Agreement together. It should be updated, but we need to, again, come to a resolution on some of these issues. The uncertainty that this is causing, Kate, is, I think, a headwind in an economy that is otherwise very strong. So I would want to keep this momentum going on the economy and resolve some of these trade issues.
I want to ask you about Supreme Court nominee Judge Kavanaugh. Chuck Schumer is saying that Republicans are concealing records about his past, about his record. They want to see more documents before anything happens with this confirmation process. Why is more information a bad thing when it comes to a lifetime tenure, such an important confirmation?
Yeah, well, relevant information is a very good thing, and it's my understanding that Chairman Grassley, who is running the process here at the Judiciary Committee, has offered up more documents by far than any other Supreme Court nominee has ever had, because he did serve in the administration as Associate Counsel to the President. He also has a long record as a judge, as you know, over 200 opinions. And I think anything that is relevant to his legal thinking, you know, how he goes about looking at some of these issues is appropriate, and that will all be there. The question is,
so then what's Schumer doing?
What Senator Schumer is saying is that with regard to his role as staff secretary, which is basically you are the person, the traffic cop for all information to the president, all information out, that, Kate, is literally millions of documents. And it's not a substantive document from Brett Kavanaugh. It's him saying, okay, I got this from the Secretary of Interior. I'm going to send this into you, Mr. President, and then take out whatever the president writes on that. A lot of this would be subject to executive privilege. I think it's a fishing expedition. I think it goes too far. But yes, if it's a document that he authored, or a document that he was involved with as associate counsel, certainly, or certainly as a judge, that's totally appropriate. And again, more documents are being offered than in any time in history. So I think there'll be plenty of documents, and I don't think that, frankly, that's the issue that many Democrats have with Brett Kavanaugh. They've already said they're no. Senator Schumer said he's no already. So the issue is not the number of documents they're going to look at. They've decided they're going to be against him. By the way, I think he'd be a terrific justice. He's also a good person. You know, he's humble, he's a good listener, he's compassionate. And my hope is that he'll have the opportunity to have his hearing soon. I think the American people will see that in him, and plenty of documents will be out there. And we'll all have the opportunity to see what I think will be a nice performance by him, and the opportunity for us to move together to a vote that I think will be bipartisan, and I think he'll be confirmed.
Senator, finally, it just came out yesterday that Urban Meyer, the head football coach, of course, of Ohio State, one of the top coaches in all of college football right now, he's on paid administrative leave as the school is investigating whether he was aware or turned a blind eye to domestic violence allegations against an assistant coach. The senior representative from the state of Ohio. I just wanted to ask you, because it's rocking the college football world, what's your reaction?
Well, Urban Meyer's a friend, and as you said, he's a legend, not just at Ohio State, but Florida and other places, just an incredible coach. And I know him, I know his wife, they're good people, good character, so we'll see what happens. I don't know any of the details, Kate. I'm learning as you are from the media. But Ohio State takes these things seriously, as they should, and we'll see what happens. But I have a lot of confidence in him, and not just his football skills, but also him and his character.
Senator Portman, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Kate. Take care.
Thank you.